There's a 2-year-old electric SUV sitting on a dealer lot right now with a sticker in the window that would make its original owner physically ill. The car stickered at $62,000 in early 2024. It has 19,000 miles on it. Leather's perfect, battery's healthy, and the dealer wants $28,500 for it, and it's been sitting there for 3 weeks anyway. That's not a hypothetical. That's the used electric vehicle market between 2025 and 2026. And if you owned one of these things through that stretch, you already know, because you've either checked your trade-in value and closed the laptop quietly, or you're still afraid to look. Here's the number that frames everything else I'm going to tell you. The average vehicle in America loses about 42% of its value over 5 years. That's normal. That's the cost of doing business. Electric vehicles as a class are now losing 57% over the same stretch, and that's the average, which means half the field is doing worse than that. Some of the SUVs on this list shed more value in the 12 months between 2025 and 2026 than a Toyota pickup loses in 5 years. And here's the part almost nobody says out loud. A big chunk of that crash wasn't the cars getting worse. It was a single date on a calendar, September 30th, 2025. The day a $7,500 government check quietly stopped propping up the entire resale ladder and the whole market repriced overnight. I've watched depreciation curves my entire working life, and I have never seen anything like what happened to some of these vehicles. So I'm going to count down 10 electric SUVs that got absolutely hammered, with real numbers on every one. And stay for number 1, because it's not just the worst on this list. It's the worst resale value of anything you can buy, period. Before the list, 60 seconds on what actually happened, because without this, the numbers won't make sense. Through September of 2025, the federal government was handing $7,500 to new EV buyers and $4,000 to used EV buyers. Congress killed both credits, effective September 30th. Now think about what that check was really doing. It wasn't just a discount on a new car. It was setting the floor under every used one, because a used EV only makes sense if it's cheaper than a new one after the credit. When the credit died, new EV prices fell to compensate, down more than 12% in 6 months by some counts, and every one of those new car price cuts landed directly on the head of every person who already owned one. Used EV demand cracked at the same time. The share of used car buyers choosing electric dropped 20% between September and January. Fewer buyers, cheaper new alternatives, no subsidy. That's the machine. Now let's feed some SUVs into it. Number 10. The Toyota bZ4X. I'm starting here because this one breaks a rule you've probably built your whole car buying life around, which is that a Toyota badge is a savings account. A RAV4 hybrid holds value better than almost anything on 4 wheels. The bZ4X wears the same badge and depreciates like a first-generation electric science project, because that's what it is. iSeeCars pegs its 5-year loss around 46.5%, and the private trackers are meaner than that, some showing 58%. But forget the projections and look at the lots. Early 2023 bZ4Xs that transacted in the low to mid-40s are selling right now in the low to mid-20s. That's roughly half the money gone in 3 years on a Toyota. Why? Because the badge can't fix the hardware. The charging speed lags the Koreans badly. The real-world cold weather range disappointed people from day one, and used buyers know it. And Toyota knows it, which is why the used market flinched even harder when Hyundai and Kia started undercutting it with vehicles that charge twice as fast on 800-volt architecture. A used buyer standing between a bZ4X and an Ioniq 5 at similar money isn't making a hard decision, and every one of those easy decisions shows up as a lower bid on the Toyota. The lesson buried in this one is important. Reputation doesn't transfer across a powertrain. Toyota earned 70 years of trust-building hybrids and gas engines, and every dollar of that trust was earned on technology they'd mastered. The used market looked at their first mainstream electric SUV and priced it like a rookie, because on this technology, that's exactly what Toyota is. The badge got them the sale. It couldn't get anyone the resale. Number 9. The Cadillac Lyriq. This one hurts because the car itself is genuinely good. Handsome, quiet, well screwed together. And it's getting crushed anyway, with realistic estimates now sitting at 50 to 60% of MSRP gone over 5 years. and the sharpest chunk of that landing in the first 24 months. Here's the mechanism, and it's one you'll see all the way down this list. Cadillac needed to move metal, so the lease deals got aggressive and the manufacturer cash got thick. Every heavily subsidized new Lyriq that rolls off a lot resets what a used one is worth, because no rational buyer pays 50 grand for a year-old example when the dealer across the street is functionally renting new ones for less. Low-mileage used Lyriqs are now trading at loaded gas crossover money, which is wonderful if you're buying, and brutal if you signed for one at $65,000. On a $60,000 to $70,000 Lyriq, you can pencil in $25,000 or more, evaporating by year 5, and most of it front-loaded right onto the first owner. That's you if you bought new. And I'll flag one more headwind the Lyriq didn't ask for. It shares its platform and its factory with vehicles you're about to meet later in this countdown, and when your platform siblings start getting canceled and fire-sold, some of that stink drifts over the fence whether it's deserved or not. The used market doesn't grade on nuance. It grades on association. Number 8. The Tesla Model Y. I can hear the comments already, so let me be precise, because the Tesla story is genuinely 2 stories. Story 1. The Model Y lost 57.8% of its value over 5 years in the 2026 IC Cars study. That's worse than the EV average, and the reason is a decision made in Austin, not in your driveway. Tesla spent 2023 and 2024 slashing new car prices again and again to defend volume, and every single cut repriced more than 1 million used Model Ys downward in an afternoon. It was the largest transfer of equity out of customers' pockets I've ever seen a car company execute, and it wasn't even aimed at them. It was aimed at the competition. Story 2, and this is the twist. Since the tax credit died in September 2025, used Tesla prices have actually risen about 4%, while nearly every other used EV fell. When the subsidy vanished, buyers retreated to the brand with the charging network and the software support, and Tesla was the safe harbor. So the Model Y makes this list for the crater it dug from 2023 through 2025. But if you're holding one now, you're in the strongest position of anyone in this video. Cold comfort if you bought at the 2022 peak, but it's the truth, and I'd rather give you the truth than a clean narrative. Number 7. The Volkswagen ID.4. 62.1% gone over 5 years. Sit with that for a second. On an ID.4 that's stickered around $45,000, that's $28,000 of value that no longer exists. The ID.4's problem is that it stacked every EV headwind on top of a very specific one of its own, the recall file. The door handle recall in 2024 pulled 100,000 of them off the market at once, and before that came a parade of software complaints that made VW's infotainment a running joke among owners. Here's the thing about recalls and resale that most people don't understand. It's not the defect that kills the value, it's the overhang. Even after the fix, every used buyer who Googles the model finds the headlines, and a certain percentage of them just quietly walk to the Hyundai across the street. The used market doesn't forgive, it discounts. The perverse footnote is that this makes a fixed 2023 or 2024 ID.4 one of the genuine bargains in the entire used EV market right now, low 20s for a spacious, comfortable family crossover. The first owner paid the tuition. You can collect the education. Number 6. The Ford Mustang Mach-E. 60.8% lost over 5 years, and the Mach-E's story is really the story of getting caught in the middle of a price war it didn't start. When Tesla began cutting Model Y prices, Ford had a choice: hold pricing and watch Mach-E's pile up on lots, or match the cuts and torch its existing owner's equity. Ford blinked, cut, and cut again. Every owner who financed one near sticker in 2022 or 2023 watched the new price of their own car drop under them like a trap door, and used values followed it straight down. Add the tax credit chaos, where the Mach-E qualified, then half qualified, then didn't, depending on the month and the battery sourcing, and used buyers simply couldn't figure out what the thing was supposed to be worth. When buyers can't figure out what something's worth, they bid low. That's not a character flaw. That's what you do too. And I want to put a dollar figure on what that did to real people, because percentages hide the pain. A Mach-E Premium financed at $55,000 in 2022 on a typical 72-month loan was worth less than the payoff balance for years. That's negative equity, and negative equity isn't an abstraction. It's the reason you can't sell the car when your circumstances change, the reason the trade-in conversation ends with you writing a check, the reason a fender bender becomes a financial event when the insurance payout comes in under the loan balance. The car itself is decent, quick, and comfortable. Its value crashed anyway because resale isn't a report card on the vehicle. It's a report card on the market it lives in, and the Mach-E lived in a war zone. Number 5. The Nissan Ariya. This is the one where I want you to learn the single most reliable resale killer in the entire industry because the Ariya just demonstrated it in real time. Nissan pulled the Ariya from the American lineup for the 2026 model year. Discontinued. And the moment that news landed, every used Ariya in the country got cheaper because the used market hates an orphan. Arias that stickered from the low 40s into the 60s are now sitting on lots in the low to mid 20s. Some of the higher trims have surrendered $35,000 or more, and most of that isn't the car's fault. The Ariya is quiet, nicely finished, and mechanically it's been reasonably solid. Doesn't matter. When a manufacturer walks away from a model, buyers start asking questions with no good answers. Who's stocking parts in 8 years? What's the dealer tech's incentive to stay trained on it? What's the trade-in conversation look like in 2030? Every one of those questions is a discount. And here's the cruel arithmetic of a discontinuation. It punishes the loyalists hardest. The people who took a chance on Nissan's electric future, who bought early and paid full freight, are the ones holding the vehicles when the announcement lands. The people who waited, who were skeptical, who let someone else go first, they're the ones now picking up mid-20s Ariyas with warranty left on them. The market rewarded the doubters and billed the believers, and it does that every single time a model dies young. Remember this pattern, because it's about to show up twice more on this list, each time worse than the last. Number 4. The Acura ZDX. Here's the pattern again, compressed into a timeline that should genuinely alarm you if you bought one. The ZDX went on sale in 2024, Acura's first electric SUV, built by General Motors on GM's platform in the same Tennessee plant as the Cadillac Lyriq. By late 2025, Acura killed it. One full model year, all planned 2026 units, canceled. And the reporting around the shutdown included a number that tells you everything. To keep the leases moving, the effective discounts were approaching $30,000 per vehicle. Think about what a $30,000 discount on a new one does to yours. It's not a discount at that point. It's a public announcement of what the vehicle is actually worth, printed on every dealer website in the country. Used ZDX values fell right through the floor that announcement built. Now, to be fair, and I try to be, Acura has committed to full parts, service, and warranty support, and the GM platform underneath is shared with higher volume vehicles, so this is not an orphan in the mechanical sense. As a used buy in the low to mid-30s, a 500 horsepower Type S is honestly interesting. But if you paid sticker in 2024, you were the down payment on that other person's bargain. Number 3. The Mercedes-Benz EQS SUV. Now we're in the territory where depreciation stops being a percentage and becomes a luxury car's entire price. The EQS SUV, launched as the flagship, $105,000 and up, the electric S-Class of SUVs, hand-stitched everything. By late 2025, certified pre-owned 2023 EQS 580 SUVs, the top powertrain, Mercedes' own certified program, were listing below $70,000. That's 40+% of a six-figure vehicle gone in roughly 2 years, and the broader EQS line has been tracking around 58% lost inside 3. On the dollar scale, that's $50,000 to $60,000 of somebody's money, a nicely equipped gas GLE worth of value, deleted. And the mechanism here is worth understanding because it's structural, not accidental. A $100,000 electric flagship has the narrowest possible used buyer pool. People wealthy enough to buy it, comfortable enough with EVs to want it, and yet somehow willing to buy used at that altitude, which is almost nobody, because the people with that money just lease a new one. Meanwhile, the technology inside it ages in dog years. The 800-volt competition made its charging hardware feel dated before the first lease returns even hit the lots. Flagship price, startup-grade obsolescence curve. That's the EQS SUV math, and it's ugly. Number 2. The Audi Q8 e-tron. If the Mercedes was expensive obsolescence, the Audi is the full combination punch. Luxury depreciation, EV depreciation, and discontinuation all landing on the same vehicle. The depreciation trackers have the Q8 e-tron losing roughly 65 to 73% of its value over 5 years, which puts an $85,000 SUV under 30 grand, and plenty of real listings are already there. And then Audi shut it down entirely. The Brussels factory that built it closed in early 2025, and the model died with the plant. So a used buyer looking at a Q8 e-tron today is being asked to pay premium adjacent money for a discontinued electric SUV from a first-generation platform whose range and charging were merely okay when new and are plainly behind now. The market's answer to that ask has been a flat no, expressed in dollars. Here's what kills me about this one. The Q8 e-tron is, by every account, beautifully built. The interior would shame cars costing more. The ride is serene. None of it matters to the resale math because build quality is what you experience and depreciation is what you pay, and the two have almost nothing to do with each other on a first-generation EV. The first e-tron buyers in 2019 took the same beating. The Q8 e-tron buyers took it again. The market was trying to tell everyone something twice. Number 1. The Jaguar I-Pace. The champion. The I-Pace doesn't just have the worst depreciation on this list. Multiple trackers now rank it with the worst resale value of any vehicle sold in America, electric or otherwise. The numbers read like a misprint. 70.7% gone in 5 years by one measure, 72.2% by another, roughly 66% inside 4. A $70,000 I-Pace becomes a $22,000 to $24,000 used car, and the curve is still pointing down. How does a striking, quick, genuinely charming electric SUV, and it is charming, I'll give it that, lose 3/4 of its value? Count the wounds. Discontinued. Jaguar ended I-Pace production and then blew up its entire brand to relaunch as something else. So the company that built your car functionally no longer exists in its old form. Recalled. The battery fire recalls put owners through software-limited charging and long waits, and used buyers read every word of it. Orphan tech. Its charging speed was mid-pack in 2019, and it's a liability now. And the dealer network's appetite for servicing an old electric Jag from the previous regime is exactly what you'd guess. Every single resale killer on this list, the I-Pace collected like stamps. If you own one, I'm sorry. And the honest advice is that the loss is already taken, so drive it until the wheels fall off. If you're shopping used, a $22,000 I-Pace with a documented healthy battery is either the deal of the decade or a very pretty way to learn about parts availability. Could go either way. That's the truth. And there's a ghost hanging over this whole countdown that I can't leave out, because it's where every one of these trend lines points if you follow them far enough. The Fisker Ocean. It's not on the list proper because its collapse started earlier, but between 2025 and 2026, it kept falling into territory no modern car has visited. Fisker went bankrupt in June of 2024 with about 11,000 Oceans on the road. Cars people paid $40,000 to $70,000 for. The bankruptcy court sold over 3,000 leftover ones in bulk to a New York fleet operator for as little as $2,500 apiece for damaged units, $16.50 for clean ones. That bulk sale printed the real number on the whole fleet. This summer, a 3-year-old Ocean with 17,000 miles and a clean history sold at auction for $15,800, and the owners are the ones keeping the cars alive, reverse engineering the software themselves after the cloud services got cut off. Understand what that means. These cars needed the company's servers to be whole, and the company died. That's the endpoint this video has been circling. A vehicle is only worth what its support system is worth. And for a connected EV, the support system is a corporation's continued existence. Now here's the part that actually matters, because a list of losses is just entertainment unless you understand who was standing on the other side of every one of those transactions. Depreciation isn't money vanishing, it's money moving. So follow it. Start with the leases because the lease is the master key to this entire era. Remember that during the tax credit years, a leased EV was classified as a commercial vehicle, which meant the $7,500 credit went to the leasing company, the manufacturer's own finance arm, not to you. They could pass it along in the payment or pass along some of it, and you'd never see the paperwork either way. Then, at the end of the lease, the depreciation you'd been reading about all through this video became the finance arm's problem instead of yours, except they'd already priced it into your payment, collected the credit, and gotten the car back to wholesale into a used market they understood far better than the retail customer bidding on it. The house did fine. The house always does fine. Now follow the price cuts. When Tesla and Ford slashed new prices, the headlines called it a win for consumers, and for new buyers it was. But every cut was funded, in a very real sense, by the equity of every existing owner, people who'd financed at the old price and now sat underwater on a car worth $10,000 less than Tuesday. The manufacturers defended market share with their customers' trade-in values, and it never appeared on anyone's invoice. And then follow the crash itself, because the 50% off 2-year-old EVs are being bought by somebody. Dealers and fleet operators who understand battery health reports are hoovering them up at auction, marking them up, and selling them to the next wave of used buyers. And that spread only exists because retail sellers panicked and retail buyers were too spooked to bid properly. There's no money in a stable, predictable used market. There's a great deal of money in a chaotic one if you're the party with better information. And notice one more thing about that information gap. The single most important number on any used EV, the actual measured health of the battery, is the one number the average seller has never seen, and the average retail buyer doesn't know to demand. The wholesale buyers scan for it as routinely as they check the tires, so the professionals were pricing the real asset while the public was pricing the fear. And the difference between those two prices, multiplied across hundreds of thousands of transactions, is where a very quiet fortune got made between 2025 and 2026. From 2025 to 2026, in used EVs, the informed party was almost never the owner. That's not a conspiracy. Nobody needed to conspire. It's just what happens every time when a market gets complicated faster than its customers get educated. And underneath the money, there's something quieter worth sitting with. For 100 years, a car was a machine, and a machine's value lived in the metal. You could park a truck in a barn for a decade, put in a battery and fresh fuel, and drive it out, because everything it needed to be a truck, it carried with it. Some of these SUVs don't work that way, and the Fisker owners found out the hard way where that road ends. When a vehicle's usefulness depends on servers, subscriptions, software updates, and the ongoing goodwill of the corporation that built it, then you don't fully own a machine anymore. You hold a long position in a company, and the market prices it exactly like one, which is why a bankrupt brand's SUV trades like a distressed asset instead of a used car. I'm not telling you electric drivetrains are bad. The motors and batteries in most of these vehicles will outlast the bodywork. And that's honest engineering doing honest work. I'm telling you that a machine you can understand, service, and keep alive without anyone's permission has a kind of value that never shows up in a spec sheet. And we traded a lot of it away for touchscreens without ever being asked the price. The resale charts are the market in its blunt way, telling us what that trade was actually worth. So here's what I want you to do with all this. If you own one of these already, stop checking the value every week. It's done. The loss is real whether you look or not, and the cheapest miles you will ever drive are the ones left in the car you already have. Drive it long, keep the battery between the moderate charge levels most of the time, and let the depreciation curve flatten out underneath you, because it does flatten sharply after the early years. If you're shopping, and I mean this sincerely, this carnage is the best thing that's happened to used car buyers in a decade. But only if you buy like a professional. Rule 1. Buy the crash, never write it down. 2 to 4 year old examples of these exact vehicles at half price or less, with years of transferable battery warranty remaining, are legitimately strong value. Rule 2. Battery health report or no deal. Get a verified state of health reading, not the dashboard guess, and treat anything below the high 80s as a negotiation or a walk. Rule 3. Price the company, not just the car. A discontinued model from a healthy giant, your ZDX, your Ariya, is a discount opportunity. A model from a dead or dying company is a hobby, and hobbies should be priced like hobbies. Rule 4. Check the recall history is closed out, every item with paper. And Rule 5. If you're buying new, look up what the same model's 2-year-old examples are selling for before you sign, because that exact gap, is the check you're writing. Do those 5 things, and the next time you're standing on a lot, you won't be the panicked seller or the spooked buyer in this story. You'll be the party with better information, and you just heard what happens to everyone else. So tell me in the comments below, what's the worst depreciation hit you've personally taken or witnessed on any vehicle, electric or not? Give me the number, what you paid, what you got. I want the ugly ones, and if you're sitting on one of the SUVs from this list right now, tell me which one and whether you'd buy it again. Because the people reading those comments 6 months from now, deciding whether to sign, will learn more from your 2 sentences than from any brochure ever printed. I read every single one of these, and I mean that. Half my future videos start as an argument somebody made down there. If this saved you from an expensive mistake or confirmed one you already suspected, subscribe, because next time I'm going the other direction. The used electric vehicles that are quietly holding value better than gas cars, and the one badge on that list that I guarantee will surprise you, because 5 years ago it was the punchline of the entire industry. Until then, remember what the sticker never tells you. You don't find out what a car costs when you buy it. You find out when you try to sell it. See you in the next one.